Good morning, students. Today's class we will see the fifth part of questions and answers of nursing foundation. The first one is nursing intervention of a patient with a blood transfusion. It is the transfusion of all blood or its components, such as plasma and blood cells, from one person to another. We call it as a blood transfusion. Although it is a life-saving procedure, if it is not done according to the protocols, life-threatening complications can occur during and after the administration. So, following are the some of the nursing responsibilities of the nurse while administering the blood transfusion. The, that includes the first one. When sending the recipient's blood sample for grouping and cross-matching, it must be carefully labeled at the bedside of the recipient with the following identifications like recipient's names, hospital number, bed number, ward number. Fresh samples are taken within 4 hours and should be used for typing and cross-matching. Second, a request form should be accompany the specimen. It should contain following data: the recipient's name, hospital number, bed number, name of physician, ward number, exact amount of blood component requested, diagnosis of patient, any transfusions given earlier. It is recommended to use 18-gauge needle for infusion to prevent damage to the red cells and to provide an adequate rate of flow. No medication should be added to the blood or administered to the same IV line as it may cause damage to the red cells. The IV infusions are to be given immediately before, during, or after the blood transfusion. Always use physiological saline to prevent hemolysis of the blood in the tubing. Dextrose should be avoided. If another IV fluid is to be given, rinse the infusion set with normal saline before starting the solution. Prior to the administration of the blood, the patient's vital signs should be recorded correctly on the nurse's record to provide baseline data for the further observation. Adjust the rate of flow 5 to 10 ml per minute during the first 30 minutes of transfusion to detect any complications early as possible. The subsequent flow rate depends on the condition of the patient and need for rapid infusion. Give blood at a slower rate if the patient is elderly, suffering from cardiac or lung disease like and also anemia. Whole blood and packed blood are administered cold. No attempt to made to heat the blood. However, the blood may allow to stand at the room temperature for 30 to 40 minutes before administering to the patient. Once the blood is exposed to the atmosphere, it should be discarded. If it is not used, it should be discarded. Following observations are made throughout the procedure: rate of flow, signs of circulatory overload, urinary output, needle site for signs of infiltration, hematoma, and dislodging of the needle, blood level in the container. Never allow blood bottle to completely empty to prevent entry of air. Reaction of blood transfusion, patency of the infusion set. Keep the patient warm and comfortable with the blankets if necessary. Offer bedpan or urinal before starting the procedure. Record on nurse's record with the date and time, amount of blood administered, group and type of the blood administered, rate of flow, any reactions observed, and any medication administered. Second, nursing responsibility in care of unconscious patient. First is airway. Assess for respiratory rate, lung sounds, lung expansion, signs of tissue hypoxia, cyanosis, pallor, presence of secretions. Elevate the head of the bed to 30 degrees or place the can on a left lateral position. Insert oral airway, suction the airway intermittently. Initiate chest physiotherapy. Increase the amount of fluid administering. Cerebral tissue perfusion. Assess the increase in intracranial pressure, cerebral edema, maintain the head and neck alignment, administer of low flow oxygen, maintain oxygen therapy, monitor ABG values, maintain a patent airway, administer osmotic diuretics as ordered, and administer stool softeners as ordered. Prevention of injury. Assess for risk factors for injury like lack of side rails, loss of corneal blink reflex, invasive lines, restraints, tight dressings, environmental irritants, ground nails. Keep the side rails up and bed at the lowest position. Keep ready seizure precautions if the client have history of seizures. Use padded side rails. Keep the nails cut short. Use caution while moving the client. Give adequate support to the limbs and head while moving or turning the client. Always turn the client towards the nurse. Protect from external source of heat like hot water bag. Release of restraints. Keep the bed free of moisture, dust, and debris. Avoid over sedation. Prevention of complications. Prevention of pressure sore. Keeps the skin clean, dry, free of pressure. Use pressure relieving devices. Change the positions too early. Avoid dragging and pulling of the client while changing the position. Give skin care every 4th hourly. Avoid vigorous massage of the bony prominence. Provide high caloric, high protein, vitamin rich diet with more amount of fluid. prevention of contractures and joint deformity and muscle wasting, keep the body in anatomical position with the use of device like foot thrust, trochanteric rolls, sandbags, rolled cloth, water-filled bags, give protein-rich diet, perform range of motion exercise for thoroughly after removing the support devices. Prevention of DVT, elevates lower extremity above the heart level intermittently for 20 minutes, perform passive exercise every 4th hourly, use elastic stockings as required, monitor and compare the circumference of both legs at regular interval, monitor for presence of redness, swelling and increased temperature of the legs. Hypostatic pneumonia or aspiration pneumonia, suction of airway at regular intervals, change the position every 2 hourly, initiate chest physiotherapy and postural drainage unless contraindicated, feed the client in the head elevated position, aspirate trials tube before feeding. Nutrition and fluid volume status. Assess the hydration status by examining the tissue turgor, mucous membrane, assessment of intake and output. Hydrate the client with IV fluids initially. Avoid overhydrating the client with IV fluids. Administer fluids slowly. Administer corticosteroids and diuretics in suspected case of cerebral edema. Assess the nutritional status and requirements. Administer fluid diet. Third is care of dying person. First include psychological support. There are 5 psychological stages that dying person passes through. They are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. All these stages the nurse need to be truthful but prudent in all her dealings with the client, maintaining a genuine, honest attitude of interest. Be warm, supportive, and understanding. The client may ask many questions and may want to clarify many of the doubts. Let the client tell you what he knows about his condition. Try to use his own words when talking to him. No one really knows what the future holds, and miraculous recoveries have been known. Psychological need of a dying person can be summarized as follows: relief from loneliness, fear, and depression, maintenance of security, self confidence, and dignity, maintenance of hope, meeting the spiritual needs according to his religious customs. Remember, the clear, dear, and near ones of the client also pass these 5 stages as the client is nearing death. The nurse's attitude towards the relatives should be sympathetic, considerative, and meaningful. The nurse may see that they have place to take rest and to have meals. Problems associated with breathing includes dying who is restless, apprehensive, and short of breath may be given oxygen inhalation to ease the discomfort. Elevation of the client's head and shoulders may make breathing easier. Keep the room well ventilated and keep the crowds away. As the secretions may pool in the respiratory tract due to disappearance of coughing and gag reflex, the respiration may become noisy and periodic suctioning is necessary. Problems associated with eating and drinking, anorexia, nausea, and vomiting are commonly seen in the dying person. They're unable to take any form of food. If taken, they're unable to retain the food. The client may be unable to swallow even the sips of water poured into the mouth. Most of them may require IV fluids. Problems associated with elimination include constipation, retention of urine, incontinence of urine, and stools are some of the problems faced by the client. Each problem should be prevented or treated, least treated if possible. Problems associated with immobility. Client should be comfort, placed in their position, frequently change in the bed. Problem associated with sensor organs with loss of sight. Before giving any care to the client, the nurse should touch the client and say what she is going to do. Since the hearing written longer, speak only what is appropriate. Avoid whispering anything in the client's room. Principles of bandaging. It is the process of applying bandage to the body part or immobilizing particular body part. The main principles include positioning the body part to be bandaged in the comfortable position of normal anatomical alignment. Prevention of prevent friction between the against the skin surface by applying gauze or padding. Apply bandages securely to prevent slippage during the movement. When bandaging extremities, apply bandage first at the distal end and progress towards the trunk. Applying bandages firmly with equal tension exerted to over to each turn or layer. Avoid excess or overlapping of bandage layers. Position pins, knots, or ties away from the wound or sensitive skin area. When removing the bandage, it is best to cut the bandage scissors to prevent excessive manipulation of the part. Avoid using unclean bandages and binders because they may cause infection if applied over the wound or skin abrasion. Unnecessarily thick, extensive bandage should be avoided. Nurse's responsibility include inspect the skin for abrasions, edema, discoloration or exposed wound edges, covering the exposed wound with sterile dressing, assessing the condition of underlying dressing and change them if soil, assess for signs of circulatory impairment. Role of nurse in rehabilitation. At least some rehabilitation knowledge is required whether the nurse works in the emergency room, the ICU, extended care facility, medical services, the geriatric care, and surgical service of psychiatric service. Prevention of further damage of disabilities and maintenance of assisting abilities are particularly vital no matter where the patient is. Basic rehabilitation knowledge can be used whether the patient has hemophilia, cancer, or arthritis. It is up to the nurse to apply appropriate concepts and techniques to a patient under her care. Certain knowledge, skills, and attitude, while pertinent to many areas of nursing, are required in greater depth by a nurse who works with the patient having chronic illness or in a rehabilitation program. In addition to the specialized knowledge, the rehabilitation nurse need to be expert in certain skills. The nurse must encourage the client and praise him not only for the achievement but also for the effort. We want to allow the patient time means allowing ourselves time to let the patients to do things for them. Emphasis is not to help the patients but to help him to help himself. The main function of the nurse in the rehabilitation is planning patient's care. The role includes the integration of objective data from the patient's history and physical examination, careful observation of the patient's application of nursing knowledge, and finally patient participation. Implementing preventive nursing measures, coordination of multidisciplinary approach. It is a key role to the nurses who cares for the patient receiving attention from variety of health workers. In order to do coordinate patient learning, the nurse must have open channels of communication between departments. Teaching. It is a major role of rehabilitation nurse is that of patient and family teaching. In order to accomplish the goals of successful patient and family teaching, the nurse must know as much about learning as she does about teaching. Support. The nurse has more traditional role in area of support. It's in this role that she uses her communication skills in particular. She will need both patients and families to visualize a new life. Next question is restraints. Restraints are any protective measures employed to prevent individuals from harming themselves or others and immobilize them and promote a feeling of security in a person needing control. It may be environmental or physical. Environmental restraints achieved through side rails, quiet rooms, plastic domes, netting, and locked wards. Chemical restraints include anti-anxiety, antipsychotic, and anti-hypnotic medications. Restraining combative people is stressful for all concerned. It can be accomplished with minimal anxiety by through preparation and communication. That may result from restraints are carefully weighed against the potential benefits. Restraints may cause any problems as they solve. Psychosocial hazards, negative emotional response such as frustration, stress, anxiety, fear, and panic, a sense of loss of personal control, sensory deprivation, increasing disorganized behavior, growing dependency. The physiological hazards include tissue damage, under restraints, damage to other body parts, hypostatic pneumonia, pressure sores, skin abrasions, and edema may also occur. Ischemia and nerve damage may result if the restraints are too tightly applied or if they become constrictive after application. Musculoskeletal damage may result from prolonged restraint. Type of restraints are wrist and ankle restraint, chest or waist restraint, elbow restraint, mid restraints, body restraints. Complication of immobility. Each body system has a unique response to stress of immobility. First one is integumentary system, that is formation of pressure sores. Pressure points are vulnerable to the type of breakdown because person's weight is not distributed over the entire body and large amount of weight for a prolonged period of time. Due to the effects of the friction and shearing also contribute to the formation of skin breakdown. Circulatory system, increased cardiac workload and thus increase cardiac strain by using Valsalva maneuver. Shift of plasma to interstitial space as the legs are not being used no longer. Assist in returning of blood to the heart. Thus venous stasis occurs and excess fluid accumulates in the interstitial space and causes visible edema. Hypovolemia. Loss of plasma to the interstitial space leads to hypovolemia. Blood hypercoagulability. Venous stasis complicated by increased blood viscosity leads to blood coagulability and may cause deep vein thrombosis. Damage in the vein wall caused then there is a phlebitis. One of the major danger of the thrombus formation is the thromboembolism. Orthostatic hypotension. Pulmonary system, decreased ventilation immobility can hinder the effective ventilation when the immobilized person assumes a position that limits the chest expansion. Inadequate management of respiratory secretions, mucus is affected by gravity, so it tends to accumulate in dependent or lower areas of lungs, and also immobile persons makes the fewer position changes. It leads to the accumulation of secretions. Thus, these two problems will lead to atelectasis and hypostatic pneumonia. Gastrointestinal system, diminished appetite, reduced intake, hypoproteinemia. When the intake of protein is not sufficient during a period of immobility, catabolism continues to occur and person is in the state of negative nitrogen balance. It can cause additional anorexia, malnutrition, further debilitating and immobilizing the patient. Decreased fluid intake, slowed peristalsis, and delayed digestion. Musculoskeletal system, decreased tonic contraction, immobility causes decreased tonic contraction and reduced muscle tonus can lead to additional problems like decreased muscle tension on the veins of the extremity that pave way for the venous stasis. Decreased isotonic contraction in immobility, the response rate of cardiac pulmonary system decreases and muscular power declines. Thus, with the decreased isotonic contraction, the unused muscles become weak, the client lack tolerance and endurance. Decreased isometric contraction, it will be lead to weakened abdominal muscles, fail to stabilize the abdominal wall as needed for the normal evacuation of stools, and client becomes constipated. Loss of muscle mass and strength. It results in generalized weakness, muscle pain, including backache and instability. Contractures, muscular contractures in immobile patient commonly result in muscle spasticity, paralysis with flaccidity or mechanical restriction of movement. Osteoporosis will lead to pathologic fractures and bone resorption. Urinary system, bladder distension, urinary stasis, infection, stone formation. Psychosocial systems, emotional responses, cognitive and sensory changes, interpersonal and social problems. Thank you. Thank you for listening.